history of racing games dates back decades, all the way to the earliest origins of video games. Always quick to squeeze every ounce of performance from any given platform, racing games are regularly at the tip of the spear when it comes to technological leaps. From airstrikes to race nights and rolling starts to scattered parts. From Crash FM to you versus them and Bad to the Bone to Super Unknown. From Byron Bay to Colin McRae and dub editions to pole positions. There have been hundreds of top quality racing games released over the years, but we've narrowed down a list of our favourites to what we believe are the very best. These are the greatest racing games of all time. No other racing franchise this side of Mario Kart comes close to matching the mammoth success of Need for Speed over the past 25 years. While there have been a few turkeys along the way, after the fan favourite Hot Pursuit in 2002 and the tuner-focused soft reboot of the series in 2003 with the much-loved Underground, 2005's Need for Speed Most Wanted merged the two worlds of Need for Speed: high-speed cop chases and achingly expensive exotic supercars, plus a roster of customizable mass-market hatches and sports cars. The result was a ridiculously fun arcade racer crammed with intense police pursuits that has long been the barometer against which most other Need for Speed games are judged. The acting may have been worth forgetting.
I'd like to take a little peek under the hood.
But there's no forgetting that blue and silver E46 M3. It's easily the most iconic car the series has ever produced. Regardless of what it was called in your corner of the planet, Race Driver 3 was stuffed with official championships, including DTM, V8 Supercars and IndyCar, plus a mountain more, from sprint cars to Formula 3 and GT racing to monster trucks. You could spend all morning conquering Mount Panorama in a V8 Supercar and all afternoon manhandling a massive super truck around Oran Park, and you wouldn't have even scratched the surface of what's available in Race Driver 3. Hell, you wouldn't have even left the state, much less Australia. There was a literal world of motorsport waiting for players here, for those with the stamina to unlock it. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater gets a lot of credit for kicking off a licensed soundtrack arms race in games, but the CD versions of Road Rash, beginning with the 3DO in 1994, were beating that drum several years before the Birdman. After being knocked back from A&M Records, EA went after Seattle grunge god Soundgarden directly, discovering the band were fans of the original Road Rash games. After a little more legal to and fro, Soundgarden wanted to share the soundtrack slots with a bunch of their compatriots from A&M. So EA ended up with an armful of tight tracks from Soundgarden, Monster Magnet, Paw and more. The result was one of the greatest soundtracks to ever wiggle into a set of leather pants. Beneath the music, however, Road Rash remains a classic of quick and chaotic combat racing and one of the most memorable motorcycle games of all time. Perhaps best described as Need for Speed Underground meets American Graffiti by way of MS-DOS, this 1989 cult favourite is actually set in the summer of 1963. Street Rod gives players a single summer to build a car capable of crushing the local street racing king. But you won't beat him in some 20-year-old clunker with a fresh carburetor. You need to challenge and beat a cavalcade of other local car enthusiasts down at the burger joint to build up enough bank to put together a street machine that can rule the city. A lot of what we take for granted in contemporary car PG tuning and racing games was hugely fresh and original in Street Rod, though it wasn't afraid to punish players in ways games hesitate to do these days. Placing the main character in a coma and giving him the supernatural ability to possess any other driver on the road sounds like a daft detour from the established direction of the Driver series, but Ubisoft Reflections leans into it so earnestly and wholeheartedly that Driver San Francisco is always a charmingly goofy good time. With impeccable handling, the grab bag of licensed vehicles features some of the most iconic kart chase stars of all time. The fastidiously assembled music mix of funk, rock and soul is also the perfect soundscape for pedal-stomping power slides and tenacious pursuits. There are certainly several strong candidates in this subgenre, from the enormously influential original Driver and its quietly revolutionary follow-up, to old-school pursuit classics like Chase HQ. But Driver San Francisco is number one with a bullet, like BULLITT. Man, it's not as clever when you have to spell it. The fact that Daytona USA machines are still resting proudly in arcades and bowling alleys the world over speaks volumes about the impact and importance of Sega's all-conquering racing legend.
Gentlemen, start your engine.
Discovering an arcade without a Daytona USA machine is like walking into a pizzeria out of pepperoni. Baffling and culturally unacceptable. Daytona USA, perhaps the most recognizable arcade racing game of all time, and the highest grossing sit-down cabinet ever, remains a shining example of arcade racing at its absolute purest. From the joy of judo chopping the invariably greasy gear knob from 4th to 1st to throw the 41 Hornet into a killer drift, to the gleeful and eternally infectious theme song. Who reigns supreme in a slugfest between history's slickest kart races is a matter of much subjectivity. Is it the original Super Mario Kart, the influential granddaddy of them all? Is it Rare's Diddy Kong Racing, or a dark horse like Crash Team Racing, the derivative but extremely well-executed Sony facsimile of Nintendo's winning formula? The answer is none of them. Not when Mario Kart 8 Deluxe exists. The culmination of 25 years of kart racing experience, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is the final say in karting in 2020, and the pinnacle of the franchise and the genre at large. It's stuffed with features, beautiful to behold, and boasts an expertly balanced item list, wonderfully elastic handling, and a supreme set of lovingly designed tracks. While Forza Horizon 4 remains a remarkable addition to the series, it's the simply superb Forza Horizon 3 that we find ourselves looking back upon especially fondly. The reason is the world itself. Yes, Horizon 4's Edinburgh is far and away the best and most beautiful city depicted in the series to date, and a far nicer place to cruise and explore than Horizon 3's Surface Paradise. But beyond that high-rise urban metropolis, Horizon 3's map is a terrific tapestry of extremely varied landscapes plucked from all across the land down under. It's the most varied world in the series, and that's before you include its two high-quality expansions, Blizzard Mountain and Hot Wheels, which gave us a tropical paradise of life-sized loops, launches, and large blizzards. Forza Horizon is a series informed by many others, from the open world wackiness established and embraced by Midnight Club and Midtown Madness, to Test Drive Unlimited's joy of endless cruising, and the incentivization of creative driving imbued in Bizarre's wonderful but defunct Project Gotham racing series. However, it's this killer cocktail of ingredients that's made the Horizon series an absolute smash hit. Series creator Kazunori Yamauchi expected the original Gran Turismo to be a niche game, a curio for hardcore car aficionados like himself. Instead, Gran Turismo redefined what gamers could expect from a racing game and went on to be the single best-selling game on the original PlayStation. It's hard to look past the monumental arrival of the best-selling game in the franchise though, Gran Turismo 3 A-Spec. Do you remember watching the intro movies for GT and GT2 and wishing the game actually looked like that? Now remember booting up GT3 on PS2 and realizing Polyphony had achieved just that. The generation jump had left it with a slimmer car selection than the superb Gran Turismo 2, and it would go on to be outmatched by the equally fabulous GT4, but GT3 arrived on PS2 shortly after the console's launch, ushering in a new era of racing with never-before-seen levels of fidelity. Everything about GT3 hit the mark, from the series' best soundtrack to the always unstoppable Suzuki Escudo. Burnout 3 Takedown is the ultimate expression of high-octane, no-holds-barred arcade racing, and it remains a fun and ferocious experience that's as playable today as it was in 2004. The racing is pure and precise, and crash mode is brilliant. The mild drivel of DJ Striker may date the audio a little, but elsewhere it's virtually flawless. Just listen for the satisfyingly mechanical clunk of even a simple gear shift. It sounds like Robocop swallowing a nail gun. But it's the road rage mode where the titular takedowns are key, where Burnout 3 shines brightest. Burnout Paradise, a firm fan favourite and the beneficiary of a well-received remaster in 2018, took Burnout into an open world and remains an excellent racer too, but as one of the highest rated races in history, Burnout 3 doesn't just sit amongst the most revered racing games the industry has produced, it's one of the greatest and most acclaimed games ever. And those are our picks for the greatest racing games of all time. You can check out our full list of the top 25 greatest racing games on IGN, so be sure to head there before you lament the lack of Mashed, Mr. McRae, or that Manny Fresh musical masterpiece. And for all your other racing requirements, stay on IGN.